Another comment I need to make about this, because it's really something significant for us, is that we have realized for a long time, and we're finally making some changes. These things don't happen overnight. That because we have traditionally asked congregations to support the association and their districts based on a head count, or so much per member, we penalize counting people as members. So we have an incentive. So we'll find, like, when things get tough, then especially congregations who have a real identity around being fair share APF will clean up their roles in order to. So one of the things that we're trying to do is, yes, count members as we have in the past, but also it's, what you count and what you look at has this can have a very pernicious effect on behavior. When we started asking congregations, how many people do you serve? Realistically, how many people do you serve who come at some point and onto your property, they're involved in one of your programs, not in some sort of vague, we serve the universe, but how many actual people do you serve? We're getting some amazing results, one of which I just have to tell you a quick aside, because we had a congregation that reported we served 60,000 people. Now, what happens every year, and the reason statistics don't come out right away from the association, is we get input errors because people put these in on a computer. And so sometimes, we'll get a church that was, 350 and reports 35 members, and we check with them and know it was a typo putting it in. So we thought, well, maybe this is a typo. And what the congregation, it was Tulsa said, actually, no, we counted all the people who've come to any of our programs, all the people who've watched a video of one of our services. They actually got very disciplined about counting. Everybody who's downloaded a podcast of one of their programs, and they showed counts, and it was over 60,000 people that have been touched in some direct way. So I encourage you to think about that, because it's a very empowering thing to think about how many people does your congregation actually directly affect? How many lives are we really touching in our congregations? So, okay, done with that. So, again, when I was young, church was a good thing. Going to church was what normal people did. And usually they went to the same church as their parents. And sending children to Sunday school was universally seen as the right thing to do. And in a strange way, all of this was good for us as Unitarian Universalists. Because in a culture where virtually everyone had a religious identity and where going to church was normal, we offered a liberal alternative for people who could not hack the dogma of the church that they were in or had been raised. We offered freedom, reason, we embraced science, we believe women should have equal rights, we were cool with the sexual revolution, maybe a little too cool with the sexual revolution. But that's the subject of another talk at another time. But in all seriousness, in a culture that valued church, we were the progressive church. We were the progressive alternative. So we had our liberal niche in that world that valued church. Today, church is rapidly becoming a bad brand. You heard some of this in the video. Younger people, especially progressive and better educated, increasingly see church as hierarchical, rigid, out of touch, hypocritical, and narrow-minded. So while being part of that church world once gave us a kind of legitimacy, today being part of organized religion makes us suspect. And a part of the video that, for technical reasons, didn't get shown, somebody was talking about that, and it's something I bet many of us feel, and I feel because I relate directly to that, was I hesitate. I didn't darken the door of a church for 25 years. And I miss community, and my family did, but church was such a bad brand that we resisted it for a long time until you friends say, no, this is really different. You should try. You should go some Sunday to the UU church. And we finally broke down and did, and here I am. But now, for so many people, increasingly, the fact that we are a church or seen as part of that church world, religious world, is a barrier to them coming in, not an entryway to another of them. And so while tens of millions of the nuns, the none of the above, are skeptical of religious institutions, they're not hostile to spirituality. They see themselves as spiritual but not religious. We've all seen that. They want depth and meaning in their lives. They want to connect with ideals that transcend narrow self-interest. They long for community and for intimacy. They aspire to lives in service to something that's beyond the banality of consumer culture. And they're open-minded. They accept LGBT people without a second thought. As we know, marriage equality to people under 30 is just simply no big deal. They're accepting of racial and ethnic diversity. They grew up among immigrants. They're not threatened by them. They're accepting of cultural and religious diversity, and they have no patience with a perspective that says one religious tradition has all of the truth and is the one and only way. These nuns also care about things like economic justice and the environment. And we see their involvement in like the Occupy Wall Street movement and issues. They care deeply about issues like global warming and sustainability. Do you see a pattern here? I can hear my children, echoes of my children saying, well, duh. The nuns are us. The nuns are us. They share our values. They share our aspirations. They share our theology of freedom and openness, our emphasis on social justice as an expression of our faith, our full acceptance of women and LGBT people. They're in perfect alignment. We are in perfect alignment with what is now a third of American young people. So one would think that we would be growing by leaps and bounds, but we're not. And as you saw on the charts, we've actually been really flat for the last decade and dropped a little bit in the last few years. This gap between our obvious potential, I mean, if it were market analysis, you'd go, there's a ready market for us. And the reality drives me crazy. It's driven me crazy since I became a UU, since I went to seminary. And really that gap between what we could be and where we are is the reason I got involved in denominational leadership and decided to be a candidate for president. Now, I've said a number of times, and you may have heard the line, that we can be the religion for our time. And to me, that's not a slogan. It's a core conviction that shaped all of my mystery. Our potential is breathtaking. And this isn't about growth for the sake of growth. It's about serving people and engaging people who are spiritually hungry and religiously homeless. I don't think it's moral or ethical to ignore their needs and their pain. So what's going on? How is it that our values and our perspective are a perfect fit for millions? And although our membership hasn't changed much, we're actually a smaller part of America than we were 50 years ago.